Hey, it was a great day out today, for December. So I think that helped the attitude of the guys as we were out there practicing. We were working and we got this game Sunday, and I think we're trying to get ready for it. We're going to play hard. They're going to do good, and we'll go from there. On the roster, John McGraw didn't practice today because with his ankle. Jackie Battle did not practice. And then Donald Horn did not practice. He has illness. Jeremy Horn didn't practice because of his illness. But everybody else, they participated and, did some good things. And like I told you, they had some energy out there. So that's encouraging when you see that. So hopefully we can carry that over to tomorrow and then carry it to Sunday. And we'll be ready to go. All right, with that, I'll open it up.
You sense this a bigger game for Kyle, personally?
Yeah, personally, yes. I'm sure Kyle would like to win the game, Human nature says that's what you'd like to do. So I'm sure he'd like to win it, yes.
Do you guys think that way, or is that kind of like a fan-perpetuated myth that, going against your former team makes you want it more, I guess?
No, I think that's human nature. You want it. I mean, your former team let you go, so you want to prove to them that maybe they didn't make the right choice, So, and if you can go beat them, now you can say, hey, look at me, So, but I think Kyle understands that it takes a team, and he knows that his teammates have to help him, and so he can't do it by himself. And the other thing that you get into is that human nature thing. Guys will try to do it by themselves sometimes and will try too hard, and then you isolate somebody else when you do that, or you try to force balls in where they shouldn't be forced. And so, basically that's why at the beginning of the week, I talked to him and talked to the team about it's not Kyle versus Tebow. It's not Kyle versus the Broncos. It's the Chiefs versus the Broncos. And so it's our team versus their team.
And ESPN tells us it's Kyle versus Tebow.
Well, when you believe ESPN, then that's what you believe.
When you look at the problems you guys have had in the red zone, is there a common thread to all this, or some common threads to those problems?
Well, other than the fact that we haven't scored, that's the common thread. But I was, let's say, somewhat encouraged last week because we had two opportunities to score that we hadn't, had in the past. We drop a ball in the end zone, and then we got another guy open if we can just get the ball over the outstretched hands of the defender. Now, we didn't do it. We dropped it, and we didn't make the plays. But because we were down there and those plays were open, that was somewhat encouraging. So now if we can get down there again, hopefully we can correct those mistakes and then be able to get touchdowns.
I don't mean to minimize the loss of guys like Moeaki and Jamal Charles and Castle, but you guys are 31st in the league in scoring. I mean, why haven't you guys been better in that regard this year?
Well, not having some of those guys has something to do with it. And then the other thing is we haven't been operating as efficiently as we need to put points on the board. We turn the ball over. We went through a stretch where we're turning the ball over. And when you turn the ball over, you can't put points on the board because you don't have the ball. And so that's what happens.
Robbie, I understand you got here last year right when Derek Johnson began to sort of come on a little bit more. But when you got here, and he had come off the season where he had been benched and wasn't in the starting lineup a lot of the times, but from where he was then when you first got here to where he is now, what have you seen with him in terms of growth?
Well, I think that when you look at it, you would have to say that there's been tremendous growth because here's a guy who had lost his starting job, and was a second teamer. And now we come in and we say you're going to compete for the position, and he does a tremendous job of competing and winning the job. And then we go into the season, and he's a productive player in the season. And he stays on the field, just every defensive play. Then he does it again this year, So he's made tremendous strides in my mind as a player. I wasn't here with him before that, so I don't know how he was then, but all I can go by is what I've seen, and what I've seen has been pretty good.
Have you seen guys in other teams or wherever in the past who have been challenged in that way or taken out of the starting lineup and they go the opposite direction, they just go in the tank?
Oh, sure. That happens also in this league. Guys do not accept the challenge, or they don't approach it the same way about losing their job. Sometimes guys, when they lose their job, they pout and they go into the tank and never come out. At least Derek decided that he was going to compete and got out of the tank, and now he's going to the Pro Bowl.
What have you seen the most growth from him? I mean, whether tackling or coverage or whatever. What have you seen him improve the most on in these 2 seasons?
In running our defense and knowing our defense, he becomes more knowledgeable in the system every day, every game, and now I think he has a confidence about being able to make line calls and adjustments out there on the field that I know that he didn't have that confidence when we first started.
How does it take somebody to normally get comfortable in the defense?
Well, one, I think it depends on the individual, and then, let's say how smart that individual is, what kind of background he's had in the defense, because some guys who've had a 34 background, they can pick things up a lot sooner than guys who have not had that background. So you got to look at what the background has been, how much the guy studies, does he put in extra time, to get caught up and all those things. And then, also football sense, what kind of football sense does a guy have? And all of those things will allow him to pick up things quicker.
They always say the NFL's a copycat league. Watching what Tebow's been doing out in Denver, is that something you think other teams are going to copycat, or is that just a fad that's strictly unique to Denver?
No, I think it depends on the ability of the player that you have. Take for instance in Carolina, they got a guy who's got good ability, and so they try to use his abilities. And so in Denver, Tebow has a skill set, and they're trying to use his skill set. And so I think that it just depends on the guy that you get. If you get a dropback passer, then you're going to be a dropback guy. If you get a guy that has good running ability, then you'll probably implement some plays that he can use his feet to try to help you win.
You think that's something that the way that they're playing with the quarterbacks, but they could be effective over a long period of time?
If you can keep him healthy,
I don't know if Casey is contemplating retirement, but it seems like he might contemplate it after the season. Can you put into perspective the streak that he has going, 11,000 whatever snaps that he's played consecutively?
Oh, that's a lot of snaps, and consecutive snaps. That's pretty good. I mean, because you get banged every down, and to be able to, his body, to be able to take that many snaps and still be out here playing, that's an accomplishment. I mean, I don't know who else can say that, but that's an accomplishment.
Do you think that kind of player that's out there every single game is sort of a bygone thing in this modern era of the NFL? It seems like turnovers is so much quicker nowadays.
Well, yeah, you're right about that. Turnover is quicker. But if you have a guy who is solid, who produces down in and down out, then you keep that guy. And I think that you can see guys, if they can stay healthy, be able to do, what he's done. And I think it's just marvelous and unbelievable that he's stayed healthy through all of those snaps, playing the position that he plays. Because, I mean, sometimes you got those big nose tackles on your nose and they beat you up, and they're looking to beat you up, basically. And for him to be able to hang in there and get done what he has to do for that many snaps, it's pretty good.
You spent a long time that offseason and the lockout and all that time coming up with defenses where Eric Berry was going to be a key factor in that. You lose him on the very first play of the very first game. How long did it take to adjust to what you had in your mind as to what you wanted, and then to adjust that, okay, I don't have this guy, we've got to figure out how to do it differently?
Well, yeah, but I think that when you put your system in, you don't build your system around one player. And now you have a set of plays that you have for that player. And so when you lose that player, you kind of lose that set of plays generally. And so we did have a lot of plays that featured Eric. But then when we lost him, we had to put those plays on the back burner, you know, because we didn't have anyone else with that skill set. So now then what we had to do is we had to see what we had, how they could do, what they could do, and then try to put them in the best position.
So moving guys up to the front burner who may have been on the back burner because Eric was up there. I mean, that take a couple weeks, a month? When did you feel comfortable that you had plugged the hole?
It's still a work in progress, and that hole hasn't been plugged, you know. We might have to get Eric back to plug that hole.
How much of a factor, especially with the 3-4 and the linebackers being so key to it, you now have 3 of the 4 who stay on the field all the time. How much of a factor is that to the improved play that we've been seeing?
I think it's a lot, you know, because when you develop continuity, and you can have continuity, you know, not only in a defense, all right, but in a team, I think continuity helps. And I think having those guys who can stay on the field all the time, they get to know their teammates get to know them, they understand the system better, and so they can produce better.
Okay. You can devise schemes around Lawrence Taylor?
Yeah, well, Lawrence devised some of his own schemes, you know, and then we had to implement them.